Hi there YouTube, it's me, Morrisuit America, and I'm reviewing over Transcended Angel Gaela. Now, for Global Dragon Blaze, we will get these two allies next, Transcended Angel Gaela and Transcended Angel Ravengale. Now, I'm doing a revamped version of these two videos due to the fact that the ones I had in storage are outdated. So I'm revamping them to go with what's currently going on. So, before I get started, let me state this. There's something going on with Gaela and Greysoul, and if you don't want to hear about this, there's a time skip in the description below, so you can just get right into the video and hear my review or go hear me talk about Gaela. But, let me get started. Alright, so it should be obvious that I'm going to spoil a lot of stuff, so if you don't want spoilers, go ahead and skip ahead. Now, when it comes to Gaela, she acknowledges the fact that Greysoul is her arch enemy. This is kind of weird. If you look at Greysoul's ability, his deified form, not the transcended form, and read his skills, he never mentions Gaela as his arch enemy. It's either because he doesn't see her as an enemy, or he's very laxed about it. Or maybe he really didn't know that Gaela labeled him as an arch enemy. But when you look at Gaela's deified form and read her, or actually, I think if you don't read her skill at all, it should state right there that Greysoul is her arch enemy. Now, I find this rather odd, because some of the other allies never pointed to someone and say, hey, you're my rival, or they never specifically singled out someone. Now, if they do, it might be because they're siblings, they're relatives, or something, but I find it odd that Gaela's like, he's my rival. And there was some cutscenes here and there that kind of hints their relationship. Now, I don't remember clearly about Chapter 2, but when we defeat Ragnarok in Chapter 2 and all of the Septinar Angelists decide to pop up along with the Dracos, I think Greysoul kind of had a moment where he said, oh shit, when he saw Gaela. So, yeah, it's either that, once again, I don't know if Greysoul acknowledged her as an arch enemy, or he's just very laxed about it, but then if he sees her, he's like, oh shit. But, moving on, in Chapter 3, this is very important. When Deathcrown invades the palace for the Septinar Angelists and tried to get the key fragments from both Gaela and Kamel, he bumps into Gaela, and Gaela says something like this. Why is it you? Why isn't it him? There's only a few Dracos that are male. There's Deathcrown, Bloodwind, and Greysoul. Bloodwind's already taken, and technically Gaela doesn't view Bloodwind as a rival. Deathcrown's already married, but apparently when he showed up in front of Gaela, she bluntly states out the fact that it's not him. The only one that's left is Greysoul, so what the hell is their relationship, and how did Greysoul made Gaela so mad at him? Why? Well, I think it's also hinted in the lore that Greysoul bested her with his swordsmanship, maybe. That's why Gaela's training very hard just to beat him. But yeah, usually, here's another thing I want to point out as well. When it comes to this sort of relationship where one person sees another as a rival, usually that shows some sort of chemistry between the two. And you can find this example in a lot of animes when you have a bunch of characters, or like one character that's a guy, and then another character that's a girl that wants to, you know, declare him as a rival and try to beat him in whatever he's good at, just so she can prove herself to be better. They end up falling in love with each other. So yeah, that might be happening with Gaela, but technically Greysoul and Blackaria are going out, although it's not that obvious compared to like Deathcrown and Mercedes and Bloodwind and Windloon. So I'm very curious to the lore, or the hidden lore about Gaela, Greysoul, and Blackaria, and how they just go after this one guy. I mean, Greysoul's transcended form looks fucking cool. Don't get me wrong, and I wouldn't blame him if all of the ladies decided to flock to him. But Yeah, it's just that I'm wondering why Gaela is infatuated with him, and I don't know if I'm using the right word because I'm going a little bit past my usual vocabulary, but pretty much that concludes my little lore, my little thing I want to discuss about Gaela. Thank you guys for sticking around to listen to that. Let's get into the review. To make Transcended Angel Gaela, you will need one ultimate Gaela the Fallen deified version. You need Dark Soul Ragnarok key at ultimate status, 50 Transcended Essences, and 50 million go. She is a warrior class, and she delivers both DPS and survivability, or being a tank. Weapon effects you would want on her would be 2 times the cooldown reductions one cooldown reduction and damage over time. Weapon effects, critical damage, critical rate, defense penetration, and boss damage. Suggested skill cards: for single you want very damage or boss damage, and for dual cards, very damage and boss damage. Strength and very damage, or strength and boss damage. There might be more suggested skill cards in the Korean tier list. Moving on to her abilities and her performance. So looks like her abilities is pretty even, but there's a little bit more oomph in offensive and survivability. And when I say oomph, I mean she has a little bit more stats to it, or she gives a little bit more power to those two categories. Now for her performance, looks like she's really good in Revenge of Belphegor, Tower Validation, Guild Battle, Tag Matches, Arena, those 5 are pretty up there. She's also good in Cerberus. Everything else is pretty low. So that's pretty much it for Inotive. I'm gonna swap over to the Korean tier list. Alright, so on the Korean tier list, you can see that Gaela is ranked 13 out of the 28 current Transcended Allies that's in the game. She delivers physical damage, she's a DPS, and her general focus is in PvP. One of the suggested skill cards I didn't mention would be Base Attack. You can view the details about the skills later on, and most of the ratings on the Korean tier list match up to what Inotive have with their pie graph or their circle graph or whatever graph you want to call that thing. So most of her rating is in PvP stuff, except Revenge of Belphegor. It's actually a U rating. So Tower Validation is up there. Cerberus is surprisingly up there. Arena, Tag Matches, Guild Battle is also up there. And her overall ranking is a triple S. Gaela's normal attack states that this knocks target up with certain chance, similar to Asker. And this is what her normal attack looks like. Pretty much she just teleports, or she speeds up towards her enemy and stabs them or slash them with her blade. And the blade looks very strange, but I like the design of it. Anyways, that's her normal attack. Moving on, her first active skill. Inflicts 7,200% damage to one enemy with 100% accuracy. If the enemy is not a boss type, it will also knock the target up. Cooldown for this is 7.9 seconds, but if you have cooldown effects, that can be lowered. So this is what her first active skill looks like. And apparently that kind of froze my screen, but pretty much Gaela dashes towards her enemy. There's like a little fade out and then fade in thing going on, and yeah, she just slashed at her enemy with one strike. Moving on to her second active skill. This inflicts 3,956% damage to all enemies with hits 100% critical, and instantly removes all alter egos or pets. Cooldown for this is 19.3 seconds. This is why Gaela is an Encanter killer. Her second active ability destroys pets or people that Encanter summons, especially against Greysoul. So what she does is pretty much an AoE attack. She goes right towards her enemies, she begins slashing around, and then starts teleporting around as well, and just wreak havoc on the enemies. Gaela's third ability allows her to increase attack speed by 107% for 10 seconds. In addition, Gaela removes all debuffs on self every second, 16.6 seconds. And if I remember correctly, all Gaela does is like some sort of self buff right there. She kind of summons a hurricane around her, and this is supposed to remove buffs and also increase her attack speed. And cooldown for this is 16. Wait, I think I already said that, but yeah, cooldown is 16.6 seconds. Moving on to her passive skills. Her first passive skill is called Wild Sword. When attacking, has a chance to grant herself a sword buff. Sword buff increased self-attack by 121% for 5 seconds. This buff is immune to Dispel, stacks up to 7 times. Second passive skill is called Pure Heart. Reduces all enemy strength by 30%. Her own strength is increased by 10% for every Transcended Angel in the party. Also, for every 1% HP Gaela loses, she gains 1% damage reduction. His self-incoming range damage is negative 30%. Gaela's max skill is called Wild Sword Dance. Upon reaching 7 sword buff, the skill activates. Or this skill is activated. For 8 seconds, increases her attack speed by 102%, attack by 1390%, and increases 60% attack every time she attacks in this state. She also gains full immunity, remove buffs from enemies on normal attack, and all her hits will not miss, and 100% critical. Every time Gaela kills an enemy in this state, she increases duration by 2 seconds. And I don't know how long this thing lasts, but that sounds pretty deadly. And then her ultimate skill. Adds 1 sword buff when an ally dies. If she's activated her max skill, increases its duration by 2 seconds. Maximum is 8 seconds. Also, when attacking a boss type unit, she has a 100% chance to activate her sword buff. So yeah, it seems like her ultimate skill just complements her max skill. And that's pretty much it for Transcended Angel Gaela. Now when it comes to her ranking overall with the game itself, she has a 4.6 rating. And this is either because of its kind of skewed depending on if people are liking her due to the fact that she looks nice or some other sort. But anyways, let me know in the comments below if you plan to get Transcended Angel Gaela, if you want to get her, or if you want to add on to what I just stated, give your opinions about her, and etc, etc. Just leave it down below, and thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this helps, and I'll see you guys around. Peace.